What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is going to be Geography Now, Philippines. Now the other day we did do the 14 things different between the Philippines and the world. And to be honest with you, I did not know half of it. A lot of it was shocking to me. If you haven't seen my reaction, go and check it out. Just search on my channel. It's my only other Philippines reaction. But oh my god, again, I admit in that video, bit of an idiot, didn't really know too much about it. I had met a few people, and as the video kind of stated, there seemed to be like some of the happiest people ever, which is a fair play. We're going to check this video out, learn a bit more. It's a 19-minute video. I feel like this is going to go more in depth and maybe the different cultures over there. Like a few people did tell me that it really does depend on where you're from there, on your basically your childhood there and stuff like that. It depends where you're from pretty much. So I'm going to be checking this out. Hopefully this gives a bit more insight. But yeah, it seemed beautiful for one. It was pretty cool, and I'm definitely keen to learn more. Like I've said, I'm going to be doing a lot of these geography nows on basically as many countries as possible because I'm trying to learn as much as possible. So if you like this kind of content, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I would seriously appreciate that, you absolute legends. Now let's check it out. Geography Now, Philippines. What we're going to learn today. Let's go.
If you don't know anything about Asia, the Philippines is like the jolliest of them all. They're just happy, fun, jolly people.
There we go.
You know what? It's been 3 years. I'm not taking this anymore. I've been pushed around, I've been threatened, I've been thrown in the dungeon, I've been the butt of all the jokes. I'm the Filipino one. This is my time.
What's going on?
Ah!
What?
Well,
Yeah, he had to get some off his chest
welcome
there.
to the Philippines.
Let's go.
My turn.
Okay.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everyone, I'm Ken, and as you know, I'm half Filipino.
Nice to meet you.
Years ago, I was looking for a job and I saw this ad asking for a motion graphics animator on Craigslist. Paul and I literally met up at a Jollibee for my interview. He said I was his top 3 candidates.
In reality, there were only 3 candidates that applied. So technically, I didn't lie, but yeah, the other 2 people kind of sucked, so yeah.
Oh, and back then, I had this weird mustache and Paul's hair was basically this thing.
Ken and I have been talking for a long time, and we agreed Ken definitely has to be in this episode. You've come so far from that Craigslist Jollibee interview, you've earned this.
Thanks. Handa na? Magsimula.
Is that Filipino language? That was pretty cool. I've never heard that language be spoken before. Pretty cool, if it was. I think it was.
The Philippines is an interesting country because there's sort of a dichotomy between labels. If you ask a Filipino if they consider themselves Asian or Pacific Islanders, you might get contrasting answers.
What do you
Okay.
consider yourself, Ken?
I always thought Pacific Islanders sounded kind of cool, so I usually stuck with that. So first of all,
Fair
The
enough.
Philippines is a tropical archipelago of over 7,000 islands, about 2,000 of which are inhabited, and it is the largest island nation without any land borders or shared island territory with another nation.
7,000 islands. That is mental. And again, 2,000 islands inhabited. Like, what? Like I was saying in my last video, I didn't really know much about it. I didn't expect it to, one, be as big as it was, which was mind-blowing to me. Dog, it's 7,000 islands. Wow.
the country is located in Southeast Asia, straddling the Philippine Sea in the north, the South China Sea in the west, and the Sulu and Celebes Sea in the south.
Just a skip
Okay.
away lies the island of Borneo, which is split amongst 3 nations, at the closest point only about 22 miles or 40 kilometers away from the nearest island that belongs to the Philippines.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
in general, many people will refer to one of the 3 main island cluster regions that people are a part of. There are Luzon in the north, where you can find the capital Manila and where the half of the population lives, Visaya in the center, and Mindanao in the south.
Otherwise, the nation is made up of 17 regions, one of which is autonomous, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. This place has a high level of self-rule and autonomy appointed by the government. We'll explain
Okay.
more about this later.
If you want to be absolutely technical, Quezon City, a bit north of Manila, is the largest city in the Philippines. However, the surrounding 16 towns and cities by Manila are called Manila Metro, or the
Yeah.
National Capital Region, and they basically act as one unit.
Otherwise,
That's what we learned in the last one. Like, Manila is absolutely massive. Which again is something I didn't know, but again, just going off what we've seen in this video already, it seems to be a massive, massive place, which I've already stated is mind-blowing to me. But because it's so big and it's separate islands, it seems to have a bit of different governance between the islands, and I guess everyone's not on the same page, and I imagine some islands are less fortunate in others. Would be my guess, but I can definitely see how that has happened when you've got such a large span of islands, hard to control and stuff like that. It makes sense.
As the largest city outside of the NCR are Davao City in Mindanao and Cebu in the Visayas.
Manila has the largest and busiest
Beautiful.
airport, Ninoy Aquino International Airport, which is basically the hub that services the entire NCR. They also have the busiest shipping port at the Port of Manila.
Otherwise, the second largest airport is Cebu Mactan International, and rounding out for third place is Davao City Francisco Bangoy International.
In terms
Okay.
of land transport, though, the Philippines is well connected amongst the islands. In fact, the longest highway is the Pan-Philippine Highway that stretches about 3,500 kilometers across the country and connects Luzon, Samar, Liet, and Mindanao with underground tunnels connecting them.
Finally,
Oh,
the
that's pretty cool. Again, I would have never guessed that. I was kind of sat here thinking it was so disconnected because it's all different islands. Got an underground system. That's pretty cool. You could go on a very nice long drive there, go through tunnels after tunnels, end up on a completely different island. I do rate that.
Philippines has only 2 territorial disputes. The state of Sabah in Malaysia on North
Okay.
Borneo. The territory once had been part of the Sultanate of Sulu, a Muslim state that existed the 15th century to the 20th century, and that's a whole other story.
As for the others dispute, as we mentioned quite a few times already, this whole area known as the Spratly Islands is a complete mess. If you don't know anything about this place, it basically goes like this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. This is the map showing what everyone claims in the area. This big one right here is China's. Like, yeah, they just kind of pretty much went for all of it.
This has
Okay,
even led
got
to
ya.
a few skirmishes between nations that have built patrol stations on the islands.
Oh,
And when
wow.
they spot a ship that gets too close, things can get kind of ugly.
It's kind of like this.
Hey, what are you doing? This is my area.
I'm just doing some fishing and research here, you know?
Why do you have a shovel then? Are you building something? Or?
Well, technically there's no land protruding from this reef, so there's no land claim.
So you're just gonna build your own land.
For research.
Anyway, here are some notable spots of interest.
Fort Santiago,
Magellan's Cross,
San Agustin Church,
Sagada
Oh, wow.
Hanging Coffins,
Aguila,
Oh, what?
Fort Santiago,
Magellan's Cross,
San Agustin Church.
Sagada Hanging Coffin.
Oh my god. I mean, I feel like I'm going to have to a little bit more info about that. Is that for a reason? Like, is there a bit of backstory behind that? Or is it just something which was set up a long time ago and now it is a sight to see and pay respects? Let me know in the comments, guys.
Aguilando Shrine,
Cebu's Philippine Taoist Temple,
Shrine
Oh,
of Mama
wow.
Mary in Tagaytay,
the Lapu-Lapu Shrine,
Luneta Park,
MacArthur Landing Site,
Bunawi Rice Terraces.
They
the
look beautiful.
Malacanang Palace,
Vigan has many historical and colonial buildings,
the various national museums of history and arts,
tons of amusement parks,
and that's not even including all the natural wonders of the Philippines. They have an underground river,
the most
Oh.
amazing, beautiful beaches in the universe.
hills that look
Nice.
like lumps of chocolate,
What? Chocolate hills,
The
man.
most
What?
amazing, beautiful beaches in the universe.
hills that look like lumps of chocolate.
And there's an
play.
island in a lake, in an island, in a lake, in an island.
We should hang out sometime.
Yeah, when you have 7,000 tropical islands on a volcanic archipelago, chances are things can get pretty crazy landscape-wise. Which brings us to... The actual physical land of the Philippines is the biggest treasure you will find here for sure. Anyway, the Philippines lies on the Ring of Fire and is specifically on a tectonic plate named after them, the Philippine Plate.
And about 95%
Oh, wow.
of the land is made up of the 11 largest islands.
The country was essentially formed through the tectonic activity between the Philippine, Manila, and the Mindanao Trenches, the Mindanao being the second deepest in the world.
This makes the country susceptible to small earthquakes and minor volcanic activity.
About 53 active volcanoes can be found in all of these largest islands, except for Palawan. The most famous and picturesque of these include these three.
See this island here?
I mean, they look stunning, but we've touched on it in previous videos. I ain't going anywhere near a volcano if there's any chance it's exploding. Like, what's happening in La Palma? And I was told on my last video, but that could even affect Jersey, potentially. You never know. And I was like, oh, it's absolutely mental. Like, again, it's pretty scary. As soon as you hear that earthquake, I'd be getting the hell out of there. But they do look pretty cool to see from a distance, as long as they're not causing harm.
Camiguin, it actually has more volcanoes than towns on it. 7 versus
What?
5, making it the place with the most number of volcanoes per square kilometer in
It's
the
mental,
world.
that.
In fact, the tallest peak in the Philippines is a potentially active volcano, Mount Apo, located in the South Mindanao area.
The country has numerous mountain ranges and highlands that dip into the fertile valleys, the largest range being the Cordillera Range in the North Luzon area, hooking into the Sierra Madre Range on the east side, which feeds the longest river of the country, the Cagayan, that flows into the Cagayan Valley.
This
Okay.
valley, along along with the central Luzon Valley, are the largest arable croplands and produce nearly all of the rice in the Philippines.
The Visayas
wow.
are known for growing the most sugarcane, whereas Mindanao specializes heavy in coconut and fruit production.
Back in Luzon, though, you can find the largest lake in the country, Lake Laguna de Bay, which is actually in the caldera of a dormant volcano.
The lake has a weird detached island called Talim and is actually drained by the Pasig River that flows through the capital, Manila.
And finally, the country is the heart of typhoon territory. They can come at almost any time of the year. The nation will experience on average about 20 of the turbulent storms annually, which often flood to their many river systems.
Oh, I mean, it's one of them that is potentially super dangerous. So again, stay safe, guys. That is very scary, and that is something which is very serious. And it's like, heart goes out to anyone affected by one of them. But that many a year, I didn't realize that. And that is potentially deadly as well, man. That's awful.
But yeah, if anything, Filipinos are the most cyclone-adapted people on Earth. They're used to
at
it.
that.
The water has always been kind of their thing. Swimming, sailing, fishing.
Just not exactly quite diving.
Otherwise, the Philippines is one of the 17 mega-diverse nations on Earth.
They actually have the largest level of marine biodiversity in the world within their waters and the highest rate of animal discovery on the planet, with 16 new
wow.
mammal species that were discovered in the past decade alone.
They have everything from
The longest snake in the world, the reticulated python.
the largest fish in the world, whale shark,
Oh my god, what a beast. Look at that thing, man.
7
Wow.
of the 8 known species of giant clam are found in the Philippines.
the world's smallest hoofed animal, the Philippine mouse deer.
And their national bird is the largest eagle in the world.
Economically speaking, the Philippines
Yo, what are you feeding your animals over there? Like, they are beasts.
is considered a newly industrialized nation. It is transitioning out of becoming an agricultural-based system to a service and manufacturing-based one. They have
Okay.
like 3 of the top 10 largest malls on Earth.
Ooh, just you wait. I'm taking the top spot soon.
They're one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, and as the 34th largest economy in the world, their GDP purchasing power parity has surpassed the $2 trillion mark.
Oh,
Basically,
wow.
the Philippines is definitely becoming a key power player in the world stage. It's like,
We're so rich!
someday. For what it's worth though, mining, fishing, and agriculture are strong industries as well. They are currently the world's largest nickel and abaca or Manila hemp producers, and the second largest coconut producer after Indonesia.
Tourism, though, is another important industry, taking up about 8% of their GDP, employing over 3 million people.
And now, food! Now in the Philippines, every region has their own specialty and culinary strange.
Yeah, every day.
I can imagine, like, this is something I can imagine that the Philippines food, similar to the potentially Japan and obviously China, completely different to a Western palate, pretty much. It's like what I would normally eat. I can imagine it's so exotic. Gotta give everything a go, and I imagine some of it is out of this world. And that is something I need to give a go. I haven't never given a go Filipino food. Maybe I should, but I imagine some of the combos are absolutely mental and probably gorgeous.
Dish looks like a fairy exploded.
Lots of dishes you could eat kumakain kamay, or eat with your hands.
Yeah, pretty much everything has rice, and then you're gonna get a lot of grease and salt and vinegar and a lot of like, I don't care if that looks like it goes there or not, I'm still gonna eat it anyway. Right, Ken?
Yeah, that's Filipino food.
Yeah.
There's
Fair
really
play.
no official national dish, but 3 meals that are well known for are adobo, lumpia, and sinigang.
And in the non-Muslim parts, lechon is a huge deal.
There are also
Oh,
dishes
wow.
like
Tagalog steak,
tinola,
pansit luglug,
kare-kare,
sigsig,
tapsilog,
balut,
kinilaw,
and my
Whoa, what the hell was that,
Favorite
man? I've just said some random stuff, like
pansit
exotic,
luglug,
kare-kare,
sigsig,
tapsilog.
balut.
fertilized duck egg. Oh my days. I did just say there's going to be some wild stuff in there which I'd love to give a go, very exotic, and I'd probably enjoy. I feel like this is one of them where I'm going to have to pass. Some people absolutely love it, and I imagine if you're Filipino, you may absolutely love it, or you may be American and absolutely love it. But for me, that's a step too far. I will pass.
Kinilaw.
And my favorite Filipino dish, palabok. Just put some nice little lemon juice on it. I actually got this at Jollibee. If you don't know what Jollibee is, it's like the most popular fast food chain in the Philippines. It's like if
Okay.
McDonald's and KFC adopted a Filipino baby, and they even added spaghetti to their menu for some reason.
Otherwise,
Sign me up.
Filipinos are dessert experts. They love their ube. Ube everything. Ube ice cream. Ube bread. Ube pie. Ube cakes.
Oh, they
Wow.
also have like sapin, and cassava cakes. Those are the best desserts in my opinion.
They also have halo-halo, leche flan, turon, bukok pandan, and puto. What you call me? If you're either Latin American or Spanish, you may notice some of those foods are also found in Latin cuisines. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, we'll explain that in. Now, only in the Philippines
Okay,
can you find people
demographics.
that have Spanish names, speak English, celebrate an Austronesian culture, and cook Chinese.
I mean, I don't know why that image is coming up in the top left, but we did figure out in the last video, I think it was 175 different languages. Mental. Culture on a different level, like the diversity and the culturedness of it is just a new level.
General
man.
MacArthur once said, "Give me 1,000 Filipino soldiers and I will conquer the world."
Oh,
Yeah, for some
wow.
reason, Filipinos are like the best friends of Asia. Filipinos still have the best attitudes and smiles. They even give time off felony sentences if the prisoners volunteer to take part in a Michael Jackson dance performance to the public.
But we're
What?
getting ahead of ourselves. First, the graph. The country has about 110 million people and is the 8th most populated country in Asia and the
Okay.
12th most populated country in the world.
There are about 175 ethno-linguistic people groups in the Philippines, the majority of whose languages are Austronesian.
Of these groups, the largest ones are the Tagalog at about 28%, 13% are Cebuano, 9% are Ilocano, and 8% are Bisaya. The rest are made up of other groups plus a small minority of non-native citizens, mostly
Okay.
Asians and Americans.
It's important to note, though, that the Philippines has about 10.2 million people overseas worldwide. It is one
Yeah.
of the largest diaspora populations, spanning over 100 countries. The US alone has about 4 million.
I mean,
That is mental, and they've even made it to like Jersey, the island I live off England. Like I said in my last one, I know a few people who've come over from there. Again, I didn't know much about them. I didn't really speak to them too much. I just knew of them, but they were like honestly so sound and so nice. And that's why I kind of got that stereotype as long as everyone else. Like they're just so happy and nice, which is like fair play. But I understand they go elsewhere for opportunities because they can get better opportunities elsewhere. And in this case, they went back after they'd done a couple of years working. They could go back with a lot more money than they'd got in the Philippines. It's like, yeah, fair play. You do you and be happy, man. I love that.
they were at one point colonized by the US, so go figure.
They use the Filipino peso as their currency, they use the types A, B, and C plug outlets, and they drive on
Okay.
the right side of the road.
Oh,
Okay.
and keep in mind the word Pinoy is synonymous with something that is Filipino. You might see that used a lot.
Now back to the ethnic groups thing. Since there are over 175 of them, you would think, how do they all communicate?
Well, the Philippines has two official languages, English, which makes them the 5th most English-speaking nation on earth, and Filipino, which is the standardized version of Tagalog. The Philippine
Okay.
Tagalog language spoken today is a very different from pure Tagalog. It actually has about 14% Spanish, 10% Malay, and 7% English mixed into it with a slew of other borrowed loanwords. You can see
Oh,
the
wow.
influence in words like pintelador, guapo, zapatos, and pamilya. Often, Filipinos will
sense.
substitute an F with a P,
Or a V with a B.
or a V with a B.
Yeah, same with Koreans actually. Yeah. High five with minimal consonants.
Yay!
Oh, and fun fact, Ken taught me this. In Tagalog, you can actually say an entire conversation just using the syllable ba. For example,
Ba, ba ba, ba ba, ba ba ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba ba,
ba, ba 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 ba.
ba ba ba.
Well, that was fun. Otherwise, in the Visayas
What?
and Mindanao area, Cebuano is a common language, as well as the other regional tongues like Waray and Daboeno.
They even
Okay.
have the only Spanish-based Creole in Asia, Chavacano, located in Zamboanga City. Now, the Philippines is unique in that over a past few centuries, they've gone through 3 periods that shape their identity.
Before European intervention, the Philippines has had a multitude of early civilizations that built kingdoms and dynasties like the Tondo, the Namayan, the Pangasinan, and the Sulu Sultanate.
Many of these kingdoms had their own indigenous writing system, such as the Babayan, Buhid, Eskayan, and Kulitan.
Genetically,
Okay.
Filipinos are classified as belonging to the broader Austronesian people group, with their closest cousins being the Micronesians, like the Mariana Islanders, Guam, and Palau.
Although over the years, many people have mixed, and today it is speculated that somewhere around 1/5 or more of the population may have some kind of Chinese ancestry. After the
Oh,
Spanish
wow,
came
there you
in, they
go.
adopted
Again, this is like so much information thrown at me, so I'm definitely not going to remember all of it. And I'm glad I did do that 14 reasons why it's different, because I kind of got some base, very simplistic facts about the Philippines. I learned a bit more before going into this, because this is so much information thrown at me, which is awesome because I'm learning, and I'm going to do this for as many countries as possible. But yeah, I hope you guys are learning as well, or maybe you're from the place. If you are, let me know what it's like for you, your experiences, and if you've never experienced much of the Philippines and this is your first time, I hope you're enjoying it. Let me know in the comments if you are learning and if you love this kind of content, because I really do. Just seeing something new, learning, and being a community together, learning as a community, it's awesome.
many of the customs, traditions, and cultural traits which have Spanish roots. Their own countries named after Spanish King Philip. The biggest trait, though, would be the fact
Wow.
that they are predominantly Catholic, at about
Yeah.
81% of the population adhering to the faith.
The rest are mostly Protestant, with a small Muslim minority in the South Mindanao area.
The Philippines
Okay.
is the largest Christian nation in Asia, 5th largest Christian nation on Earth, and 3rd largest Catholic nation after Brazil and Mexico.
They have
Wow.
so many holidays and festivals devoted to Catholic themes like All Saints Day, Holy Week, and Easter, and of course, the largest one, Christmas.
The Philippines has the
Love a bit of
longest Christmas Christmas season out of anywhere else on Earth.
Okay, so now we're just gonna rapid fire a list of 12 fun cultural facts for the Philippines.
Filipinos have a ton of superstitions. For example, whistling at night will turn you into a werewolf.
For formal occasions, you may
I can't whistle, so I'm not going to be a werewolf. Don't worry about me. I'm a bit of an idiot. I can't whistle, and I've tried my hardest to do it, but I can't. So it means I'll never be a werewolf, though. I like
see
that.
Filipinos wearing traditional barongs for men and Maria Clara or mestiza dresses for women.
There are many
Okay.
other traditional costumes and customs for the other 170 ethnic groups. Too many to cover, but it goes everywhere from feathers, coconut fibers, hair dresses, tribal tattoos, and so on.
Speaking of which,
wow,
the
fair
Philippines
play.
dominates major international beauty pageants with a grand total of 15 victories at the Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth competitions.
Basketball and boxing are the most popular sport by far. They have the oldest basketball league in Asia and the second oldest in the world after the United States. And come on, we all know Pacquiao.
The Philippines
Yeah,
is the
I mean, we've been over Pacquiao. I spoke about him in my last video, so if you want to check that out, about how he's running for president, and I saw that mental how he can influence an entire nation pretty
leading
much.
nation to train and export nurses abroad. It's been said at one point, every Filipino has their should I just drop everything and become a nurse moment in their life crisis.
What?
That's a fact. I've had those. And the word balikbayan means returner or returning family. It is used
Okay.
when someone comes back from expat work abroad.
You might hear the honorific title of po or opo for elders, and a lot of people often raise the backs of the hands of their elders to their forehead as a sign of respect and say,
Oh, fair play.
yes.
In the Philippines, you have your name and you have your Pinoy nickname, and they get really weird and creative. Pepsi, Bing Bong, Jelly Boy, Pinky, Bum Bum, and Earl.
Every Filipino on every island in every region can tell you Filipinos are obsessed with karaoke. The first karaoke machine was actually patented by a Filipino, Roberto
Yep.
del Rosario, even though some Japanese dude invented it, but he patented it.
Obviously, that
Hey, if you get the rights to it, then it's yours. I like
means
it.
music is a big deal in the Philippines. Besides
Yep.
taking modern cues from American pop, they also have traditional styles. Instruments include things like gudyapi, kilitang, gimbal, kubing, and togali.
In addition,
Oh,
there are many
wow.
different styles of dance, but the most famous one considered the national dance is tinikling, a dance done between two pairs of perpendicular bamboo poles that are clapped together as percussion tools, and the dancers must weave their feet in and out in the spaces before getting hit or tripped.
Fair play. I mean, I would not have the coordination to do that. I'd be tripped straight over instantly. So it's like, yeah, fair play if you can do
Now,
that.
on a bit of a more objective note, we do have to talk about some of the controversies.
The Philippines is beautiful, but if you've been keeping up with current events, they do have their fair share of issues that have made headlines. We don't
Okay.
sugarcoat everything here.
Human trafficking, whether in the sex industry, slavery, or organ smuggling, has been a problem in certain areas. And even though
Oh, wow.
anti-trafficking acts have been passed by the government, enforcement has not always been on par.
The drug trade has also been a major inconvenience for decades, affecting millions of people in the country. This has led to the new controversial laws instituted by President Duarte, which encouraged the public to seek bounty in exchange for hunting down drug pushers. Many of
I guess, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just me from an outside. I'm only going off this video, my last one I checked out. I know nothing else. So just kind of my logic, I'd think. I guess when you're talking about 2,000 islands, yes, a lot of it's connected by underground tunnels driving, but it's a long distance to be separated, very volcanic, so you've got a lot of hills and mountains there. It makes sense how there is a lot of this dodgy crime going on, potentially, as the controversy says, because I imagine it's hard to monitor and control. I love the incentive, about bounty to stop the drugs and stuff. I absolutely love that, but it's not going to work everywhere, and that's relying on people calling someone may potentially know out. They may be scared of that person. If the authorities can't do anything about it, they may not do the bounty because they'll be scared of that person. So I can completely get how that could run right in a place like that where it's just so separated. Again, that is just what I'd assume the reason it is. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Let me know, because I want to educate myself, but that'd be my assumption.
have died in the process.
And finally, you have the Moro conflict, an insurgency in the predominantly Muslim Mindanao region, which sought to take parts of eastern Malaysia and break away through conflict. The fight has been going on for nearly half a century, and now it's just ending at the turn of the 21st century.
Kind of.
For what it's worth, though, in the Philippines, everyone is family at the end. You don't have to be related to anyone to call someone ate or kuya. There's even a
Fair
word,
play.
bayanihan, which means something like helping one another through community spirit without expecting anything in return. In any case, we gotta finish off this segment with history.
Austronesians.
Tribal kingdoms and sultanates.
This guy came to the islands.
Catholicism comes in.
Lapu-Lapu and Magellan dies in battle.
5 Spanish dudes followed through.
They finally become a colony of Spain.
The galleon trade.
British Philippines.
And then back to Spain. The Treaty of Paris.
Philippine Revolution.
The Spanish-American War.
First Philippine Republic. Philippine-American War.
American occupation.
World War II, Japan invades.
American pushes them back.
Finally, Philippine independence.
Ferdinand Marcos turns from president to dictator.
Martial law.
This guy gets gets killed because he was against the regime.
People Power Revolution
wow.
in 1986.
Growth from agricultural society to an industrial one.
And here we are today. And
I mean, that is I imagine that is a very, very, very brief overlook of the history, but I guess we've covered the main
now
topics.
we finish off with the notable famous people condensed. Some famous people you guys, the Pinoy geography suggested we mention in this episode include
Lapu-Lapu,
Jose Rizal, these two saints,
Melchora Aquino,
Manuel L. Quezon,
Lacan Dula, Josefa Yanes Escoda, and Vicente Lim.
Carlos Peña Romulo.
And all the Miss Universe winners. And there's a
Fair
ton of
play.
Americans with Filipino or partial Filipino.
Yo, Dave Bautista, I know him. I definitely know him. Bruno Mars. Wow. Again, I don't know the other people. I apologise if that's offended some people, but I don't. But I know the two in the middle. I would have never guessed that I had that Filipino heritage in
Descent.
there.
Yeah, you can see there's lots of American Filipinos. Those two get along pretty tight.
We'll explain more on how that happened in...
Benzo.
Because of the long history in the Philippines being colonized by two major Western powerhouses, it would make sense that it would have ties with the outside world in many different ways.
Yeah.
For friends, the Philippines is generally close with all the ASEAN nations and does great business with them, particularly Indonesia and Malaysia, their closest neighbors.
The Marshall Islands, Palau, and the federal states of Micronesia are all cousin countries, many of which have
Okay.
Filipino migrants in them. And they all share the same history of being former US territories and US influenced states.
Of course, Spain will always be in the back of their minds as the former colonizer that they gained much influence from. Although
Yep.
Filipinos are not
Makes
considered
sense.
Latino, the Spanish and many Latin Americans kind of see them as like the adopted Asians that totally fit in their family. It's like,
Oh,
come
wow.
on, you're Catholic, you eat flan, every fifth word you speak is Spanish, you're basically one of us.
Interestingly enough, the relationship with Mexico has historically been always strong. The Philippines was ruled under a Mexico-based viceroyalty of New
Okay.
Spain. The Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships, which for 2.5 centuries linked the Philippines with Mexico across the Pacific Ocean, making one
Fair
or
play.
two round-trip voyages per year between the ports of Acapulco and Manila. And Mexican traditions were brought in like the Day of the Dead and Champorado.
When it comes to their best friends, however, most
Oh, isn't The Day of the Dead? I may be completely wrong, but there's that film which I may sound like an absolute idiot if it's wrong. Is it Coco Loco? If you've seen that film, obviously it's a bit cartoony, but the premise is there, The Day of the Dead, with the images, like they have the photos out in basically kind of a shrine, and that means one day a year they can cross. Technically, the dead can cross over and they can see their family and stuff like that. Obviously, the family can't see them, but they know the spirits are around and stuff like that. Again, that is very brief, and I apologise if I've completely butchered it. But that is I did like that kind of thing, and I did enjoy that film, actually. I don't know how accurate it actually covers it, because I think it is more of a children's film. But I think that is that, and it's pretty cool.
Filipinos would probably say, even though colonial years were a little bit bumpy, ultimately the USA and South Korea.
South Korea was one of their closest best friends from the 20th century on. World War
Okay.
II really bonded with them after the Japanese occupation years, and they supported each other diplomatically.
Koreans are the top #1 tourist demographic that visit the Philippines. Koreans kind of admire the fact that even though they were both influenced by the US, Filipinos speak better English, whereas Filipinos practically obsess over Korean products and media.
Oh, wow.
Us.
That's why we're...
For the USA, ties were close ever since they became their colony in 1898. The US also had the largest number of overseas Filipinos at over 4 million, most of
Yep.
whom live on the West Coast states like Hawaii and California. They are one of the oldest
I feel like Hawaii makes sense. It potentially, to me, again, I haven't been to Hawaii, just from what I'm assuming from watching this video, it's like a home from a home. It makes sense. It's kind of the similar vibes I get from reacting to this Philippines to what I would Hawaii. Seems very similar vibes.
Asian partners of the US. They have a mutual defense treaty, and they are the largest export partner and second largest import after China.
American
Oh,
pop
wow.
culture dominates much of the youth influence. Hollywood studios love filming there, and Gallup polls have shown that the USA is favored on average by over 90% of the people asked, making it one of the most pro-American countries on the planet.
Oh, wow.
And Ken, you take the conclusion.
In conclusion, if you enter a room full of Asians, you definitely know who the Filipinos are. While everyone's so uptight, we're the ones singing karaoke and somersaulting. You could just feel the energy of a Filipino. There's a touch of Latin flavor with American pop undertones. But in the end, no matter what island, you're immediately considered part of the Pinoy family.
Ken,
Fair
one of my
play.
best friends. I love you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. Stay tuned. Poland is coming up next.
Let me know if you want me to check out the Polish one. I really enjoyed that. Let me know what other ones you want me to react to in the comments. Is there anything else you want me to cover on the Philippines? Really enjoyed that. So much more than what I would have assumed in my head going into this, which is absolutely awesome, and I'm trying to learn. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what else you want me to react to in the comments. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.